That's some bullshit. Ain't that some bullshit?
And it does not increase the debt. When you talk about the number, we shouldn't even talk about the numbers.
Let me hear you say, that ain't right.
On May 24th, 2021, under oath before a congressional committee, Dr. Anthony Fauci denied the National Institute of Health provided any funding for gain-of-function research, saying, quote, that categorically was not done, close quote. Today, this very day, the NIH issued a statement contradicting that testimony, which suggests that Dr. Fauci may have committed perjury. This is a criminal offense, and I'm left to wonder if you intend to look into that and send a communication such as a letter or a memo similar to the October 4th memo that you issued regarding parents going to school board meetings to investigate Dr. Fauci's potential perjury.
Again, I'll refer to the long-standing departmental norm that we don't comment about investigations pending or unpending. The general point that you're making normally would come with a referral from the relevant committee, but other than
no offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
The actual point I'm making is you chose, as a response to a letter from the National School Board Association, and as you said earlier today, newspaper accounts, to issue a memorandum to organize task force and investigate and put a chill on parents' participation before school boards. Now you say, oh, I didn't mean to provide a chill, but that's exactly what any sentient being would have assumed would happen when you asked the federal government to begin looking into this. Of course parents are going to be nervous now. Of course people will step back. That's the purpose of my questioning. So when we get to these things like Zuckerberg, Facebook, Kamala Harris, we get to, and Dr. Fauci's purported perjury, there's no indication. You didn't hold back. You issued a press release. Do you see the distinction?
Let me hear you say, that ain't right. That ain't right. That shit is wrong.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do and homelessness and all that. And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
For the first time that I heard about the Let's Go Brandon songs on the iTunes top 10 charts was almost a week ago. The day after my last video, I woke up and I started seeing stuff about these Let's Go Brandon songs, and so I looked it up. And sure enough, on the hip-hop top 10, there was 3 different songs called Let's Go Brandon. And it's the same now, but the 2 of them, the one by Bryson Gray and Loza Alexander, are the top 2 songs on all of iTunes.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
You know what they saying, ho?
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
You know what they saying, ho?
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
You know what they saying, ho?
And this Bryson Gray one, he caught a strike on YouTube for medical misinformation. I think this has got to be a first, that somebody gets a strike for medical misinformation for a lyric in a song. It's the first time I've ever heard of anything like that.
Various shots that people are getting now cover that. You're okay. You're not gonna get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Somebody gotta do it. Hey, let's go, Brandon. I keep a drum like I'm Nick Cannon. Hey, let's go, Brandon. Pandemic ain't real.
And then there was a third one I saw from Forgiato Blow.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd, let's go, Brandon. Brandon, you told me you were going to kind of hang back those first 2 statements.
Americans screaming, let's go Brandon. Patriots screaming, fuck Joe Biden. The media, they trying to play us like fools, yeah. You know she heard fuck Biden too, yeah.
And I saw even some kids are making punk versions.
Hey, let's go, Brandon. I think you should resign. I got 10% off the top for the big man and his wife. And we'll call you out, for the ones too scared to speak. Even VP Harris thinks you're a racist bigot creep. And all your lies will be exposed, and where it stops nobody knows. A wicked web you weave, and the lies we've been deceived. Keep the people terrified, they won't question the genocide. You must comply, must stay in line, don't step outside, you'll be denied.
It makes me wonder where some of the more outspoken, more popular punk bands are. I would expect someone like that because, you know, a lot of punk bands are very much political and very much outspoken against some past presidents we've had, but all of a sudden nobody seems to want to say a fucking thing. When I think about bands like NoFX and the Oxymoronic song they did about 5 years ago, I'll put a link to that video in the description. You should check that out. It's a really good anti-Big Pharma song. But all of a sudden, a lot of these same people that just, hell, 2 years ago would have said, fuck the pharmaceutical companies, you can't trust them for shit. Now all of a sudden, what, it's all changed? Everything's all better now? We gotta trust them. But I hope people really keep this up because it really is a brilliant way of being able to say, fuck this guy, without having to be vulgar, so you can do it anytime, any place. And people that are in the know, they know what you mean. And the people that go, who the hell is Brandon? Well, right away you know, damn, you really don't pay attention to shit, do you? Like this town hall that Biden did on Thursday, you know, if you just watch the morning wrap-up on the news about it, you'd think that it was just a, you know, no big deal. He answered some questions and yada yada yada. Nobody seemed to want to talk about the moment where he just stood there with his fists out for, I mean, a good while, looking like Cornholio. Honestly, I think he looked like he was squeezing his cheeks together to keep from shitting his pants. But honestly, who knows what was going through his mind at that point. It had to be a really weird moment for Anderson Cooper. I could just imagine what was going through his mind, like, what the fuck, what do I do? And the funny thing about this, you know, fuck Joe Biden, let's go Brandon shit is that everybody knows that this guy's out to lunch. Everybody knows his mental faculties are waning. And even when he was, you know, all there, he wasn't the brightest guy in the room. But now, you know, so to say fuck this guy, it's not necessarily, you know, because we know he's not the one in charge. We're rejecting the puppet system where they throw this dolt in front of us so that he can pass by any kind of bullshit and then just get thrown under the bus later as a crazy old fool. More and more people from all walks are finally starting to get it. People that are paying attention see that, Jesus, this guy needs to be in hospice. And the people on the TV news that are telling us that everything's okay and that it's a conspiracy theory that this guy's fucking gone, it's a real wonder why people say you can't trust the media. And there was all kinds of softball questions that were pre-approved and had their little pre-written responses for, and even the ones that weren't softball questions, he was allowed to get away with these bullshit non-answers.
Do you have a timeline for gas prices of when you think they may start coming down?
My guess is you'll start to see gas prices come down as we get by and going into the winter, into next year in 2022. I don't see anything that's going to happen in the meantime that's going to significantly reduce gas prices. Gas prices relate to a foreign policy initiative that is about something that goes beyond the cost of gas. And we're about $3.30 a gallon most places now, when it's up from, was down in the single digits, a dollar plus. And that's because of the supply being withheld by OPEC. And so there's a lot of negotiation that is, there's a lot of Middle Eastern folks want to talk to me. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I'm going to talk to them, but the point is, it's about gas production.
That would have been a moment to really dig in and say, well, you know, maybe it wasn't such a good idea to cut our domestic production down and then we wouldn't have to rely on OPEC in these Middle Eastern countries. Because, hell, just a year and a half ago, we were a net exporter of oil. We could produce all we needed to use and then some. And gas was less than half of what it is now when you took office just 10 fucking months ago. So please explain to me what exactly the fuck you are talking about. And then Pete Buttigieg went on The View the other day to talk about our little supply chain hiccups, because he is the Secretary of Transportation, so this is kind of his fucking deal. He should be the one solving it, but he's been, a little bit busy taking his paternity leave off, and so, he's just been a little bit too busy to deal with us being able to get goods and shit in for Christmas.
Get to this hot topic, because we've all seen the images of cargo ships backlogged at ports along the coast. People are looking to you as Transportation Secretary to solve the supply chain crisis. It's a heavy load, which is causing massive product shortages and price hikes on everything from toys to, Christmas is coming, to gas, to groceries. Now, what is causing this bottleneck exactly, and how do you plan on fixing it? Is there any quick fix, or is this a long haul we're talking about?
So there's no easy fix, there's no magic wand, but there are a lot of things we can do. There are three things that are causing this: supply, demand, and the pandemic. And as long as the pandemic continues, we're going to see all kinds of disruptions, right? If COVID shuts down a port in China or a shoe factory in Vietnam in September, you're going to notice that at the mall in December or January. Which is why the biggest thing we have to do still as a country is put the pandemic behind us. Then you got the demand issues, the fact that Americans have more money in their pockets compared to a year ago, and where they used to maybe spend it on going to shows or travel, they've been more likely to spend it on things, which is why actually we have a record number of goods coming through our ports. It's not that we're moving fewer goods through our system, we're moving more than ever. It's just not enough to keep up. And this goes to the longer term issues that we have in our country. We're relying on infrastructure that was built decades ago, sometimes a century ago. This is why the president has been calling, and I've been calling, for major infrastructure investment to spend on improving those ports, improve our airports, improve our roads and highways and railways. And we finally have a chance to do it with the president's infrastructure bill that I hope will pass very soon in Congress.
Is it just me, or does he sound like he doesn't really know what he's talking about? He sounds like he's way out of his element. Oh, yeah, sure, this is just a problem with supply and demand and the pandemic. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with, the new rules that California put into effect about the trucks that go into the ports. That's just a big coincidence that they had just recently passed these more stringent regulations, isn't it? How do I know it's just a coincidence? Oh, because I've got articles fact-checking and telling me that, this has nothing to do with it. Although down here in Florida, we don't seem to have a problem with this. I don't know. I'm sure Pete'll figure it out. Then as for what he said about the aging infrastructure and that being a problem, yeah, that is a problem. That's been a problem for years. I guess maybe a solution could possibly be not adding a bunch of bullshit into the infrastructure bill that is not infrastructure and calling it human infrastructure. They act like there's no way they could do that, where they could just have a clean bill where it's about the roads, the rails, the bridges, the ports, and just put money into that, and then you can do the other stuff separately. No, we got to lump it all together, and then if people aren't willing to pay $3.5 trillion, $0, it's free. How could you be against it? Because it's not going to cost a penny.
So there's a lot of pieces in there. There's a lot that people don't understand. And by the way, all of it's paid for. Every single penny. It's not going to raise one single cent.
Does anybody really believe that? Does anybody really believe that this is all going to work itself out, that this inflation we're seeing is just transitory, as the Fed has been saying? Does anybody believe that once we hit the magic number of enough people getting the jab, that everything's going to finally go back to normal? That all this money that we just printed out of fucking nowhere in the past year and a half isn't going to come back to bite us in the ass? I guess we'll be seeing soon enough. Sláinte.
All I have in this world is my thoughts and my words, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. night, so say good night to the bad guy. Come on. Come on. Night.